All right.
There's Darlene.
I'm so sorry about that. One thing was Wi-Fi problems, and then I just had a little difficult time finding the link that everybody else seemed to be able to find. So totally sorry about that. Nice to see everyone.
Yeah, so we're waiting to see how more people tell us that they're here in the chat. And
Yeah,
we'll go start once we hear from more people.
Yeah, we got folks from Wesley Chapel, Florida, Tampa, Florida. We got somebody from Central Public Library in Bradenton, Florida. Awesome. Welcome, everybody. And our our YouTube live stream is now officially set up. So that's the number one question I get with these recordings. Will this event be available afterward? The recording will actually be available during as the YouTube live stream. So rest assured, you don't have to worry about taking notes or getting everything down because you'll have access to that recording. I'm Caroline from the Scistarter team. I'm on the line with Darlene Cavalier, the founder of Scistarter, and Catherine Kelly. We're going to let Catherine do the intro, and then she'll pass it over to us to talk about all things citizen science and libraries. Catherine, take it away.
All right, great. So welcome, everyone. I'm the Vice President of Suncoast Information Specialist this year. So you're a person that plans programs like this one. And this month, April, is Citizen Science Month, and I discovered this in one of my National Library of Medicine classes that I was doing, and they were talking about programming. So I then said, oh, let me find the book. And of course, this is Darlene's, one of her books that I found in our library in Pinellas Park. And then I reached out to Darlene, and she hooked me up with Caroline to do a program for us. And I thought it was a very perfect thing to do, and that we could tie in Florida. And obviously it's a big tie-in with libraries, being that National Library of Medicine is keen on this, as well as lots of other organizations in libraries and outside of libraries. So let me, before I talk too much, just introduce you to who we have. So Darlene Cavalier, she's a professor at Arizona State University, the Center for Engagement and Training, and she is the founder of Scistarter, and she'll tell you more about that as we go along. She's also a former professional cheerleader, and she founded an organization that is science cheerleader, right? I think that's what it's called.
That's right.
For former cheerleaders pursuing STEM careers. And she's a founding board member of the Citizen Science Association. She has degrees from Temple University and the University of Pennsylvania. So thank you, Darlene, for saying yes and being willing to do this. Caroline is you're still a master's student at AU, American University, Caroline. I can't remember if that's still your status.
No, graduated, but
yay! So, all right. Okay, and she has a focus on environmental and climate change. She's also worked with University of Florida and the UNESCO Bioethics Unit and the Christensen Project and the DC Gator Club. And now she's here back in Florida, so she's going to touch on some things dealing with citizen science and Florida. I think that's good. I am, like I said, I'm your vice president this year, and I'm at the Pinellas Park Public Library currently. All right, take it away, and I'll mute myself. Oh, if you have questions, put them in the chat, and we will get to them as we go along or at the end. That sounds good?
Yes.
Okay.
And Caroline, you must be feeling right at home, getting to see so many new colleagues, I guess, in Florida there. So Caroline, thank you for pulling the slides up and for helping to coordinate a lot of this. And then Catherine, thank you so much for reaching out. It's great. We thought it was great timing for a couple of reasons, and you'll see why. Citizen Science Month, of course, and then some new training programs that we have. So first question, let's start with a poll. Have you ever knowingly participated in a citizen science project before? We'll give you a little time to answer this. And Caroline will just tell us when she wants to show the results, I think.
Yeah, we have one more person who needs to answer, not to call you out. We'll give them one more second.
Usually that's me, but I see the hosts and panelists cannot vote for that. So that's not me that you're waiting on now.
All right, so we'll give it 3, 2, 1, and we'll end the poll and share those results.
Oh, all right. Newbies. Great. Yeah, unsure is a good answer too, because it's possible that you have. We're going to describe what citizen science is and in a little bit. And let's see, have you ever participated or heard of Scistarter before today's event? We need that Jeopardy music.
We'll give you a few more seconds to vote. Get those votes in. All right, and we'll end the poll.
All right, so the number one, welcome back. And the others, you're going to get to know a little bit more about Scistarter, and hopefully it becomes a very useful tool for you this year. So that's next slide. And as Catherine mentioned and Caroline mentioned, it's Citizen Science Month. This is all of April. It's a great opportunity, a good excuse to learn about citizen science, find ways to implement it through your libraries, through the other ways that you facilitate or want to facilitate engagement in science, authentic science, and we'll describe what that means in a moment. So many events on citizensciencemonth.org made possible by the National Library of Medicine. So they actually fund and support Citizen Science Month and have a great emphasis on building and developing resources for libraries of all sizes and capacities. So please check out citizensciencemonth.org, find some events like this one listed there. And if it's never too late to actually pop up your own event, especially in the world of Zoom. And if you're looking for marketing materials, queued up social media assets, everything that you need is available on that site for free. Next slide. And Caroline, certainly feel free to jump in if I miss anything here. But in general, we describe citizen science as a collaboration between people, regular people from all walks of life, and typically scientists, but not always. What's common about the people is that they're curious or concerned about an issue, and they're motivated to take action. So it's more than just thinking about an issue. You're actually taking time to volunteer to do something. And the reason why we have these different terms at the top is generally the umbrella term is citizen science. Somebody without necessarily having a formal science degree or any degree at all, engaging in parts of science and sharing data to advance areas of research. Community science is a field of practice where community members are coming up with, they're driving the research agenda. They come up with the questions. They usually do work with a professional to develop protocols, to work together and collaborate on the most appropriate use of technology or digital interfaces, and they act upon the data. So it's this whole long, broad spectrum of engagement with community science. And participatory science, to me, is another way of just saying citizen science. Next. We'll just elaborate a little bit more on that community science, citizen science, participatory science, and feel free to ask questions in chat and so forth. And understanding too that usually there's scientists who don't have enough data, and so they ask people to collect that data, and they collect it through observations, and we'll give some examples in a little bit. And then there might be scientists and others who have too much data. And so this is more known as crowdsourcing, where they put their data out there and they ask people to analyze it or make sense of it. Next slide. Oh, I'm sorry, Caroline, I forgot to mention the National Library of Medicine, which I did mention. They have a program called All of Us, and maybe you've heard of it. This is an attempt to get 1 million people involved in a really important project to help really accelerate drug discovery for underrepresented communities, most of whom are really rarely involved in the process of coming up with drug discoveries because they're not accounted for. So the idea here is to warm people up to the idea that they can and should be part of science in all these different variations that we describe on Scistarter, working with librarians to build confidence among them so that they feel comfortable talking about citizen science. And so it does take a while to get people, especially adults, used to the idea that they can be part of science. So many times Caroline and I are at live events and we would talk about citizen science, and so often people assume that it's for kids because that's what we've all been conditioned to know. If you're not a scientist or a teacher or a policymaker, when you hear about STEM engagement, science, technology, engineering, and math, you assume that it's for kids. And not only is it for kids, but it's for kids designed to make them become scientists later. And we need to break that mold a little bit. Libraries have been very, very useful in helping that happen. And all of us ultimately is a program that the National Library of Medicine is hoping to engage more people in through libraries who are also already reaching underserved and underrepresented communities. So they're looking for 1 million people to participate in that project. Okay, next. So we know that millions of people enjoy science and nature. We know this. I know this for sure. I worked at Discover magazine for more than a decade, and we had millions of readers of that magazine. So they bought it because they cared about and they loved science and nature. Next. And what I did not know then is that thousands of scientists actually need help from the public. This is what I discovered when I decided to go back to school. I went to graduate school specifically after working at Discover to learn how somebody like me, somebody without a formal degree in science, could be engaged in science. I did not want to become a scientist or a policymaker or an educator. I ended up being an educator, but I wanted to be part of it. And I thought it was odd that we kept preaching how much people should know about science and be science literate. 100% agree with that, but miss this big opportunity to let even school students know that you actually don't have to be a scientist to be part of the scientific enterprise. What I didn't realize is how much science needs everybody. Next. So then when I discovered these opportunities exist, I realized like, you shouldn't have to go back to graduate school to figure that out. Why did it take me, who was working at a science magazine, so long to find these opportunities? Well, it was because people could not find each other. The scientists who actually needed help from the public couldn't find the public easily. And members of the public, how would they know? How would all of you know to go search for participatory, public participation in scientific research, or these obscure terms that were being used? So next slide. This is where Scistarter came to be. We connect these groups. Next slide. You want to play this video?
Citizen science can change the world. These programs mobilize people from all walks of life to contribute to scientific research, from teachers to artists, Girl Scouts to business professionals, students to retirees. Citizen science taps into the power of the people, where they are. Scientific data gathered by individuals and communities gives concerned or curious people, decision makers, and scientists access to more information than they could possibly gather on their own. Your contributions lead to breakthrough research, new approaches, and expedited scientific discoveries. So how can you start to make a difference? Scistarter makes it easy to find the perfect project for you. With a database of more than 3,000 citizen science projects to choose from, you can search by topic, location, age level, and more. Anything that sparks your curiosity is a mere click away. Scistarter can help you take valuable actions to contribute to the projects you're most passionate about. Their tools database provides you with exactly what you need to get started. And with events held across the nation throughout the year, Scistarter brings fun citizen science opportunities directly to you. Visit the Scistarter website to begin exploring the possibilities of scientific participation and create a personal account to receive project suggestions tailored especially for you. Together with Scistarter, we can all play a part in scientific research that can change the world for the better.
Thank you, Caroline. So that's a little bit about Scistarter. And if you were to go to the homepage, it would look something like this. And our main goal is to help people find opportunities to engage in issues they are curious or concerned about. So there's a mini project finder, then there's an advanced project finder, so you can find local opportunities. You can filter them by appropriate age level, whether or not there are learning materials with those projects, whether or not they require specialized instruments, which some projects do, but most do not, and a lot more information there. So that's Scistarter. Let's go on. Now, it is important to understand that in many cases, citizen science helps to advance scientific research. And so we know because of citizen scientists, bird populations have declined by half. I'm just going to read these off and I'll stop when something worth singling out a little bit more. They're breeding earlier. A lot of these outputs, by the way, come from our colleague, Dr. Karen Cooper from North Carolina State University. 50 types of bacteria live in your belly button. We know that from one of Dr. Cooper's colleagues at North Carolina State University, who had a citizen science project that asked participants to use a sterilized Q-tip to swab their belly button and send that Q-tip back to the lab. And when they did the analysis, of course, they're looking for more than just fun facts. But now we know that because of these volunteers. There was a similar, another project that used sterilized Q-tips and asked people to swab their cell phone and their shoes, as well as high touch surface areas. And thousands of people got involved in that project. We talked about the science cheerleaders earlier. Thousands of people got involved because the science cheerleaders engaged people through NFL and NBA games to get involved. In fact, we had sterilized Q-tips shot out of the t-shirt bazooka at a Philadelphia 76ers game to enable fans to get involved in that project. 48 of those samples were flown on the International Space Station, and their growth rates were analyzed. So published papers are now available about that project called Space Microbes. And it's a good thing because we learned a lot about one type of bacteria that grew a little differently on the International Space Station in the near microgravity climate there than on Earth. And you want this information because of long-term space travel, the plans for humans to travel. You want to understand what is living among you and how those things react in a different climate. First flowering of 19 species of plants have moved 9 days earlier. Things are blossoming, buds are blooming earlier, obviously from climate change. This one's neat too. There's a project for auroras where you have to be positioned in a place where you can actually observe these. But the citizen scientists who were part of that project discovered a new type of aurora that they nicknamed Steve. And they did this by just making careful observations over and over and over again. And I think one caught it on their camera. Next. Jupiter-sized planet, another Jupiter-sized planet from citizen scientists. Invasive mosquitoes arrived in Germany. And I love this one too, because this was really, libraries were very involved in this and made this possible. In 2019, we just had Citizen Science Day. It wasn't a month yet. And during that day, which we extended into a weekend, we worked with a number of libraries to host people to come into the library, learn about a specific project that they could use the library's computers and Wi-Fi for, and to engage in that project for a couple of hours. And so that project is called Stall Catchers. And stalls are used to describe whether or not blood is flowing in a vessel or it's stalled. And so it'll take me a minute to describe this, and then the outcome will become even more impressive here. But basically, volunteers were trained online in a couple of minutes to understand what they were looking at, which are ultrasound videos of blood moving through the vessel in the brain of a mouse that has Alzheimer's. So there's thousands and thousands of these micro clips, just seconds long videos where you can see in black and white blood moving through. And this program highlights a particular area of that video. So you can really focus on something. And it says, so is the blood stalled? Is it just stopped? Or is it actually flowing? And you practice a little bit, you do the online training, and then you're moved into where you're actually classifying this data. 10 people have to say the same thing about that short little video clip for it to be considered research grade data, credible data. This is exactly what graduate students at Cornell are doing. So basically what they're doing is outsourcing some of these tasks to people who want to be part of an effort to accelerate research on Alzheimer's disease. And what this does to connect to Alzheimer's is Cornell researchers are looking to see if they can use different types of experimental drugs to reduce the number of stalls in that mouse. Are they able to restore some memory? And so far, yes, they're able to restore memory when they reduce the number of stalls, which is very, very promising. But of course, you need a lot of data to make that happen. So what this weekend or day in 2019 showed us and gave evidence to stall catchers that they now use is citizen scientists accomplished in that short amount of time what it would have taken the Cornell researchers to do in 3.5 months. So this is not uncommon for citizen science to accelerate important areas of research. And what you see here on this list too is a vast array of topics that are covered through citizen science. We say from astronomy to zoology and really everything in between. Next. This is your, this should be your go-to source for resources. You'll see updates to this page, scistarter.org/library-resources. You'll see information on kits that we'll get into in a little bit that you can just repurpose, download, print. We give you the links of where you can purchase the actual instruments that are part of these kits. These kits were designed and tested in the greater Phoenix area, thanks to support from the Institutes for Museum and Library Services and our work with Arizona State University, the School for the Future of Innovation and Society, where I work. We were able to test and co-create these kits with libraries, with librarians and their communities. So we settled on 5 or 6. And so in other words, they're like field tested, replicable kits that you can put in your own library too. We have everything for you, the checkout cards, posters to promote it, recommendations for moving them into circulation, agreement forms that people can sign. So check that out. There's also a librarian's guide to citizen science, which also it's a big, thick guide because as we learn, we keep updating that guide. We update it about once a year. And so this guide provides a lot of useful information and templates, basically everything that we're learning as we start to work with more and more libraries. We feed in to make this like not even just best practices, just a place where we're sharing things that we've learned. We can call it best practices, but it's the closest thing you'll get to best practices for citizen science and libraries that we're aware of. Next.
Your library has joined a growing network of community hubs for citizen science, where everyday people share observations and contribute to real scientific investigations anytime, anywhere, no lab coat required. Here's how to get the most out of citizen science at your library. Visit the Scistarter Library Resources page for a full suite of downloadable documents, including a librarian manual covering everything from understanding your kits to promoting citizen science at your library. Review the kit options and choose which ones will work best for your community. Options include monitoring air quality to investigate air pollutants using a low-cost sensor, and a phone app measuring light at night, where a sky quality meter and other tools measure light pollution, exploring biodiversity, in which plants and animal species are photographed and documented, observing pollinators, where declining pollinator populations are investigated, and Zombie Hunter, where supplies are used to see if bees in your community are being infected by zombie flies. Now it's time to order the kit's contents. A complete list of the needed supplies, including estimated cost and suggested links to buy the products, are all just clicks away. Explore what grant funding is available by reaching out to your state library system, national library associations, or local civic organizations for potential funding support. Assemble the kits with the recommended supplies. Print materials like activity guides, rack cards, and checkout cards are all available on the Scistarter website. Once the kits are assembled, find a good place in the staff area, not accessible to the public, to store them when not checked out. Prevent future ILS-related issues by adding the kits to your internal ILS and customer-facing library software. Then, develop a checkout, waitlist, returns, and holds procedure for the kits. The recommended loan time is 2 weeks to allow enough time for users to conduct their investigations. Templates for borrowing agreements and circulation procedures are available online. Once in circulation, find out how popular each kit is and build additional copies. All that's left to do is to spread the word about citizen science at your library. Think about programming opportunities to introduce citizen science to your library users and community partners like the Girl Scouts and local astronomy groups. A promo kit is available and has everything you need to promote citizen science. Congratulations! You've joined a network of community hubs for citizen science nationwide. Now go spread the word, and remember, everything you need is on the Scistarter website. Your library has joined a...
It actually is a lot of fun, Kira. Thank you for saying that. We've had such fun working with the librarians, developing these kits. And that was Rob from, I think, Tempe or one of the Maricopa County libraries in Arizona, who did just an amazing job putting that video together. And people have fun with citizen science. So it's fun and it's important. So this is part of what we field tested, is to see what the communities were interested in, because when you have thousands of projects to choose from, it can actually be a little difficult to find the one to build a kit around. So try to, use that guide that we put together, use our resources as a jumping off point, and maybe find something even more relevant for your own communities. But these kits here, it's exploring biodiversity at the top left there. That kit has clip-on lenses for mobile devices. It has things that librarians can use, like local field guides to the type of invasive or native plants and species that people might see, or pollinators. It's a way to make the experience more fun. Some librarians put in little journals there, and they ask the patrons to put it back into the kit so the next person can kind of keep moving on to that diary and adding to information there. Measuring Light in the Night is a project that measures light pollution. This is probably the most popular kit. And this is a kit, well, it's certainly popular in Phoenix, where people like to look at stars at night. So there are a lot of stargazers out there. And Measuring Light in the Night, that kit comes with a constellation guide, because what you do in that project is you go outside about an hour after dusk on a clear night, and you're directed to look at a particular constellation. And so the stars that you cannot see in that constellation help actually understand the degree of light pollution that exists there. So it's annoying because you can't see as many stars, but it's also harmful. It disrupts sleeping patterns. It changes the nesting habits and the migration habits of birds and other animals. So understanding where light pollution is increasing also comes along with some responsibility, which feels good about it. There are things that you can do to mitigate that, just turning off your outside light at nighttime. So that's a very popular project. It comes with a dark sky meter to build confidence, because it actually does measure the light brightness. Constellation guides. Librarians put in their local programming. If they have subject matter experts coming up, if they have astronomy groups, it's a great project to tie to. You saw the video about air quality. Stream mapping is probably something relatively unique to Arizona, because when they think about water, they think about not having a lot, as opposed to where I am right now, where there's an abundance, too much water. So they want to map the streams that come and go with droughts out in Arizona. And so they give everything you need to get started on that project. Infrared thermometer, GPS, you name it, it's there. Zombie hunting is a fun one. This is a scientist at UC San Francisco who doesn't have enough data on these flies, parasitic flies that attack bees. And it's called a zombie because the bee starts to behave like a fly. It actually starts to behave like a moth. So little tip here, anytime you see a bee flying around alone, especially around a light at night, basically acting like a moth, it is possible that flea has been infected with this terrible fly. The bee will unfortunately die, and the maggots of that fly will emerge. So this kit is a little homegrown kind of do-it-yourself zombie trap, we call it. So you can see it's a little LED light. Bees are attracted to it. They're already sick if they're exhibiting these behaviors. You can safely trap them and make observations over time for that. And that kit was initially developed by our friends at the Oakland Science Museum in California. Okay, I should be paying attention, and maybe Caroline can call out if there's any specific questions.
Yeah, and really quickly, I just want to emphasize to folks that you don't need a kit to do many of these projects. The kit just helps participants take their contributions to the next level, and is a helpful guide for participating. For example, the pollinator kit that matches with the Great Sunflower Project. It comes with a guide to help identify pollinators, and you can do the Great Sunflower Project without a kit. I do the Great Sunflower Project all the time, but the kit's definitely helpful. What was that, Darlene?
Yeah, thank you very much for emphasizing that. That's exactly right. What we do find is that the kits, especially if you work, if you have the benefit of working at a library where you can loan these physical items out, we do find that it is our summative evaluation so far on this project, on that phase of work on the project, shows that it does build confidence. It builds confidence in what it means to do citizen science. And you have these for 2 weeks, so you're encouraged to continue doing projects, and people who stay engaged in projects, obviously they learn more. And it indicated that it was something like 98% of people who checked out a kit indicated an interest in checking out another one. This is a problem that we sometimes see with citizen science is interest, but not engagement, and then engagement without the sustained engagement. So there's benefits to it, but 100%, Caroline, you don't really need these kits to do the projects. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next slide here. And this is our Foundations of Citizen Science, brand new. We encourage you to kick the tires on it, give it a shot. Please don't hesitate if you see some errors. We've done a lot of user testing on it, but inevitably we miss something, or something has changed since then. It's only been out for a couple of weeks, but what we realized is that in our quest to develop professional development training for librarians in particular and other facilitators, we really needed a baseline that is like, here's the basics, here's the foundations of citizen science. So this program is self-guided, less than an hour, but we leave an hour for it. Opportunity to move through a tutorial that gives the basics of citizen science, kind of describes a lot of what I just described for anybody. And at the end of that, it was designed with our team and Arizona State University and the amazing instructional designers at Arizona State University too. And then it was also tested by a number of librarians, and it's being evaluated. So we built it on best practices. Somebody moves through that tutorial, they get an 80% or above quiz on their quiz at the end of it. And then other activities on that page open up. And one activity is to actually do projects. So it's one thing to talk about it. It's another thing to do stall catchers, for example. It's another thing to make and share observations for Project Squirrel. So you're invited to do 2 projects, because remember earlier I talked about 2 most common types of activities with citizen science projects are to add data if there's a gap in data, or analyze data if there's too much data. So you get to do both of those types of activities through the training. Once you do that, the next step opens up to you. And that's indicating that you actually know how to use Scistarter. We want to make sure that you understand how to find projects, how to save projects. And that is the next step. So that takes just a couple of minutes to indicate like, yes, I know how to use the project finder, and I was able to save 2 projects. And then the final step isn't really a step, it's a reward. And that is a certificate, but also a badge. And we use Badger and the open badging platform, because that little image there looks so sweet and innocent, that little robot with a bird on its head. That badge is embedded with a lot of metadata. And that metadata tells somebody who opens it up and looks at the metadata that you have demonstrated that you were able to practice or acquire skills and competencies. And definitely you met all the objectives of this training program that are clearly laid out when you go to this program, that you did it. And so we mapped those words, that taxonomy, to describe the objectives and the skills and the competencies to a taxonomy that is used with LinkedIn and other sources, because what we want to eventually get at is, gosh, these volunteers are doing so amazing things. Why wouldn't we make it easier for them to translate those experiences into something that is basically machine readable and articulate and helps them advance in maybe college careers, maybe in their academic pursuits, possibly in their career pursuits. So Foundations of Citizen Science, while it's not designed specifically for that last outcome I mentioned, it is our first attempt at testing and getting us a little bit closer to being able to move people and identify their skills and competencies. But at its core, it's a very good, solid beginning training. So this is also a prerequisite to a second hour of training that's specifically for librarians. Now, this, for everybody who registered here, we're going to send out the link when it's live and ready. It's in testing form. This is a second hour of training. I'm sorry, Kathleen, it's not ready yet, but we want to make sure that it's really ready for everybody very soon. And that's the second hour where, as a librarian, you will be walked through, now that you understand what citizen science is, starting to understand why it's important and why you want to bring it to your library community, how it benefits science, how it benefits society, and then the how to bring it to your library. Step-by-step instructions for all sizes and capacities at libraries and librarians, information on how to bring training to your staff there too. All these links that we put in here, easy ways to navigate the guide that we described, the resources that we described. And again, it's all free. Thanks again to the National Library of Medicine. And that one also includes a different badge. And it also includes 2 credits of professional development from the Medical Library Association. So keep an eye out for a follow-up email from us that has the link to both of these trainings. But do know it's probably worth doing the first hour of training because that is a prerequisite for the second hour. And we hope that together, these combine to make it just a nice, me too, Jillian, I could talk about this forever. And I do. It's actually become the only thing I talk about anymore, but what the heck. Thank you. I'm glad that you're interested in this. Okay. My arm is very sore. I'm happy that I got my first shot yesterday, but I should have gotten it in this arm. Crowdsourcing in citizen science, a National Library of Medicine priority. Caroline, do you want to take this slide?
Yeah, so the training you saw on the last slide, that's also thanks to the network of the National Library of Medicine. And so today you learned about how people in general are able to use the Scistarter website. So anybody, anywhere can go to Scistarter and find a way to turn their curiosity into impact, find a project they're interested in and to get started with. And libraries have all these different ways that they can lead their communities in citizen science, by getting their community started with ongoing research projects that maybe would be augmented by a kit. Maybe they don't necessarily need a kit. And Darlene also talked about the training, which you could do yourselves, or you could leverage with your community for that first hour. And the second hour, of course, is more targeted to libraries and information specialists. But now we're going to pivot a little bit and talk about featured projects from the network of the National Library of Medicine, especially for Citizen Science Month. So if you go to scistarter.org/NLM, you'll see some projects. Some of them also have kits. Some of them don't. Like Stall Catchers, for example, doesn't have a kit. It's that online game Darlene told you about where people can accelerate Alzheimer's research. And we've really been directing people to this page. So libraries have been holding events for their patrons online or in person, socially distant, safe in person, depending on their public health guidelines, to get people to do these projects. So if you go to scistarter.org/NLM today, with the kind of flow for that page that we invite people to do, whether they're with a library or just participating on their own, is that they make a Scistarter account. And then after they do that, we also have information showcased on this page, in addition to the featured research projects, the featured citizen science projects, about the All of Us research program, which is a really important supporter of Citizen Science Month as well. The All of Us research program is a precision medicine initiative. So it's an approach for disease treatment that takes into account individual variability in lifestyle, socioeconomics, environment, and biology. So when you wear glasses, that's an example of precision medicine because it's the right treatment for the person. And the All of Us research program usually consists of surveys and people giving samples. So it is a citizen science initiative. And it's one that we've been spotlighting throughout Citizen Science Month. So that joinallofus.org/NLM link is featured really prominently in our Citizen Science Month programming. And we actually have an event later today with a library in Pennsylvania where they're going to be educating their patrons about All of Us through an online event. And one of our goals with this webinar is we wanted to give you all kind of a sampling of what's out there for citizen science, especially with libraries and information specialists. So Citizen Science Month is just one avenue that we use to reach libraries and other organizations around the world. So you saw kits, that's another avenue, making citizen science kits available to folks. But Citizen Science Month, a lot of libraries have especially planned online events to reach their patrons, and they've added these events to Scistarter. So we made this comic strip to kind of help you visualize how a library might get involved with citizen science through Citizen Science Month. So this is Carla the cat. Carla is a librarian. And she hears about citizen science for the first time. So we knew from our poll at the beginning that about 90% of you haven't done citizen science before. So imagine that you're in Carla's shoes here. You hear about citizen science for the first time, and then you visit Scistarter and you think, I really want to get my community involved. It doesn't have to be during Citizen Science Month. You can get your community involved any time of the year. And we have weekly office hours on Thursdays to try to help. So that's why we do events like this one. And that's why we open up our Zoom room every Thursday morning, 8 a.m. and 11 a.m. Eastern. So we can talk to you, help you brainstorm, and learn how we can be a resource to you as you bring citizen science to your community. So Carla the cat joined one of our office hours. And she wants to engage her senior population. So she picks stall catchers. She thinks that Alzheimer's research project where people can just play an online game will really resonate with her community. So she picks a date and time. She invites everybody. It could be in a Zoom webinar or in a safe, socially distant event. And she adds her event to Scistarter, so even more people can discover it. And she just begins spreading the word. She leverages her community contacts. We know you as library staff and information specialists, you know what's best for your community. So you are able to help get the word out, get publicity materials together, and really galvanize Alzheimer's research, make a difference with stall catchers, and have some collective impact around this event. If you want to learn more, or even if you're not ready to bring citizen science to your community yet, you could kind of drop in on other events that are going on throughout the month through citizensciencemonth.org. And that's the website. So you can learn more as a participant, find an online event, or find some of the featured projects we've spoken about today. Or you could find some of our resources for facilitators, and you can use them during April, which is kind of our Super Bowl for citizen science, or after April throughout the entire year. There are bookmarks that you could leverage that showcase different featured projects, explain what citizen science is, as well as some other materials like fun buttons, posters that you could print out, and certificates. And we just wanted to outline the fact that citizensciencemonth.org is a place you can go. Those featured projects are always available on scistarter.org/NLM. You can add opportunities for people to discover events on Scistarter or any other opportunities you have in the citizen science realm via scistarter.org/add. And we'll email this out to you after the fact as well. But if you want to get on our mailing list and stay in touch, you'll be able to sign up at citizensciencemonth.org/mailing list. On the bottom of that page, there's also info about my office hours. And that's the same mailing list we're using for the library network at the moment. So definitely sign up for that. And whenever you add something to Scistarter, you have access to our People Finder to invite Scistarter community members to join your efforts. As individuals, we also urge you to participate in citizen science as well, because it's fun and you might enjoy it. And I know a lot of you are also information specialists. So we thought this event would be a good one to highlight if you're looking for a way to engage as an individual. The network of the National Library of Medicine and the All of Us Research Program are doing a Gaming for Science Day on April 16th. So all day long, people will be participating in stall catchers to accelerate Alzheimer's research, the Eterna project to help build RNA-based vaccines by solving puzzles. And I think the last project that they're spotlighting is the Norika project, which allows people to play games on their phone to accelerate mental health research. So that's a fun game. If you like information, I think this is a really compelling way that people are analyzing data by playing these games. So that was something we wanted to highlight for you all as library staff and information specialists. Another event that we wanted to highlight if you're looking for another way to engage during Citizen Science Month is this one with Scistarter, NASA's Night Sky Network, and Astronomy Magazine. Just because I love the stars, and I suspect many of you do as well. It's going to be a panel with 3 different project scientists who lead citizen scientists, so volunteers from anywhere in the world, in different astronomy-related projects, like the Globe at Night project, which you heard about earlier. The project leaders that we're featuring for this panel are Spiralgraph, Aurorasaurus, and I believe the last one is about satellites, Satellite Streak Watcher. So definitely a fun event and worth coming out to. And then I'm going to pass it back to Darlene to close us out. I just wanted to show you all some more examples of how libraries have engaged. So in California, the County of San Luis Obispo Public Libraries has been leading people in the Great Sunflower Project and doing programming throughout Citizen Science Month. We actually got additional support from the network of the National Library of Medicine to do mini grants. So we were able to give 15 libraries from around the country $5,000 each to build up their collections, so citizen science books, and they were able to use our book list listed on Scistarter to do that, to educate people about the All of Us Research Program, to do online programming with me. I've been zooming into a lot of these events, which has been a lot of fun, and to do kits as well. Same with the Fletcher Free Library. They're another one of our grantees. So they've been doing citizen science kits. They've been doing some cool outdoor programming. So some hybrid events that are both in person and online. And they've also done a really good job of integrating citizen science into their existing programs, and they're planning right now for summer reading. And this last one, I wanted to highlight it because this is an example of, I think, a really robust community partnership. So in rural Washington State, this Island Heritage Trust, they are very interested in what's going on with debris in their community. So they picked the Marine Debris Tracker Project, which is a Scistarter affiliate project. You can track it in your Scistarter dashboard. And we can explain what those are in a moment, Scistarter affiliate projects. But they partnered with their library to galvanize impact around this project that they really want to know the answers to. They want to know what debris is in their community. And they're doing a hybrid event tomorrow, actually. So in the morning, I'm joining them on Zoom to explain how to participate in the Marine Debris Tracker Project. And then in the afternoon, they're doing a community cleanup with the Island Library and their Heritage Trust. So that's just one example of how you can leverage strong community partnerships and ongoing robust international research projects to answer questions you really want answered in your own community. And one thing that Catherine asked us to cover today were Florida-based projects. So I wanted to give some shout outs to projects I think are really great for my fellow Floridians. The first of which is Icy Change. So this is a Scistarter affiliate project. You might be wondering, what on earth does that mean? So there are thousands of projects listed on Scistarter, right? But of those, around 100 or so have gone the extra mile to allow people to track the number and frequency of their contributions in their Scistarter dashboard. So when you have a Scistarter account, if you make your Icy Change account with the same email address you use to make your Scistarter account, then you'll be able to track the number and frequency of your contributions in your Scistarter dashboard. So this is important for you for bragging rights. You can look back at the end of the year and see how much research you accomplished. But it's also really important for example, we saw a question in the chat earlier about tracking teen volunteer contributions. If you make a Scistarter list, and please refer to the blog post in the chat for instructions about how to add projects to a list, you can monitor the number and frequency of the contributions of people who have joined your list. So that if your teen volunteers, for example, need evidence of their contributions to back up volunteer hours they're reporting, you could do that through contributions to Scistarter affiliate projects in a Scistarter list. So Icy Change is a global community of people who are documenting the real life effects of climate change and contributing to solutions. So basically, the Icy Change project just asks anybody anywhere to look around them and report what they see. In Florida, they're doing a really big push on flooding right now. So they're asking people to take pictures and take notes of flooding they observe in their community and then upload it to the platform. And Icy Change aggregates these posts together. They take this qualitative data and they match it with quantitative data from sources like NASA to get a picture of what's going on and hopefully plan for some resiliency solutions. They've done this work in Los Angeles, California, about drought-stressed trees, in New Orleans, about stormwater, as well as about extreme heat, and just globally with different passionate people from all over the world. So if you're looking for a project to get started with in Florida and to point your communities to, Icy Change is a great one. And all of those posts are publicly available. They protect people's privacy by only marking the city where it was taken. But if you wanted to look at some of that data and the collective for their different investigations, you could do that. And basically the premise of Icy Change is crowdsourcing and analyzing that qualitative and quantitative data from the global community about what they see in their environment. And this is an example from Florida. This is in Miami. I'm sure this is a very common sight for all of you. It's a common sight for me. This is as simple as it can be. You can just take a picture of this, report what you see, and give it some context about what you're seeing. And we actually have an event with Icy Change coming up, and I'll include this in the follow-up notes so you all can attend it. Another project that I thought would really resonate for Floridians is the Marine Debris Tracker project, which empowers you to fight plastic pollution by tracking the litter that you see. It allows researchers to identify hotspots of litter. And there are lots of materials from National Geographic. And this project is actually spotlighted on our scistarter.org/NLM page and for Citizen Science Month. And you don't have to be on the coast to do it. So that's a key thing to know. You can track debris anywhere. The main thing they're doing is they're trying to track patterns of it. So someone using Marine Debris Tracker in Kansas, we can track the patterns of litter all the way to the coast. Another project, I think this is the last one we really have time for, is the Land Loss Lookout Project. You can participate from anywhere in this project, but you're analyzing satellite data from the Gulf Coast. And I wanted to spotlight this one because I think it's so cool that you're able to help a particular community monitor land loss from anywhere in the world just by analyzing that satellite data. So that's definitely a great project I think you could do with Floridians. So in conclusion, we want you to bring citizen science to your library or to your community. These are kind of the key links from today. The library resources page that Darlene talked about, where you can find resources about the kits, and the library and community guide to citizen science. We also have additional kit material on those spotlighted projects on the library kits page. There are events and programs throughout April on citizensciencemonth.org, as well as those featured projects that we think that you could jump into with your community. And for those of you who are on the information specialist side and you're looking to integrate citizen science data into your educational or programmatic efforts, we'd love if you could get in touch with us, and we'd love to continue the conversation. So thank you so much. And we also have a survey for you that I'll drop in the chat, and I'll let Darlene close it up and just leave this up here while she does that.
Okay, just one more question, Caroline, and thank you very much. Can you put in the chat one more time the link for where people can join the network? And so the network is a way that it's just emerging, but we're just collecting people who are interested in becoming part of a citizen science library network. And this is where we'll share more best practices, maybe collaborate on opportunities moving forward. There was something, post information when we hear about grants that can support your work in citizen science, because there's more and more of these. So Caroline just listed it there. It will formalize over time, but for right now, it's our way of just getting a hold of you and letting you know things like, hey, we have an opportunity to give away 15 $5,000 grants. Here's a very short application. Or we might become aware of Arizona State Library offering grants for librarians who want to start to integrate citizen science. So it's a good way to find that out, I guess. And for us to learn from you too, because we would love to understand how the movement is growing in libraries because of your work too.
And if y'all have any questions, please put them in the chat. I think we have some time to answer them. I think, let's see, people were saying, is this happening in Pinellas County? For libraries, I like Catherine's answer about how each library system is independent. I know we've worked with folks in Florida to do citizen science, but I say, don't be afraid to bring it to your area or to your county. You can always blaze a trail.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to touch on too, is that, this may seem like it's more public library in nature, but it's not. It's all kinds of libraries can do this, from your college to the schools to special libraries, medical libraries, and then of course the public library, from the very small to the large systems, so it just depends on how things are structured for you. But I think that the reason I wanted to do this, have this program done, is that there's something that all kinds of information situations, all kinds of libraries can glom into this and do this kind of fun, exciting programming work, as well as see how it has a effect. Sometimes we make a standalone program and we're not sure of the impact. This is something that clearly has, long-term impact. And I think as a librarian, that's rewarding in itself.
Catherine, do you have any more questions for us?
I do not. I just wanted to say thank you so much for this. Like I said, that as a person that works in Pinellas County, I am determined to go back, more so even after my reading, but now talking over this for an hour, to my director and say, hey, we need to do this, because we are on the cusp of starting up programming post-pandemic and determining how we want to do that. We also are in the process of probably having a big renovation coming. And one of the things that I put out there was having community work in a butterfly garden, and all these things that can be tied into citizen science. So I'm personally eager to get some things going, hopefully in the next few months, as we make these steps to getting shots in the arm, so to speak, and letting things go back to a new normal, I suppose, But I think there's so many opportunities now too, that not just, while we want to, embrace community for our particular community where I'm in Pinellas Park, we still can, reach out globally, or statewide and stuff like that. So I think that's really exciting too.
Awesome stuff. Well, I'm not seeing any more questions in the chat, so I'm going to go to our survey slide. Please fill out this survey. It helps us know how we're doing and if we can improve future events. We are very receptive to your feedback and eager for it. Darlene, do you have any closing messages for us?
I was just going to see if you could put that survey link in chat too.
Before people go, I wanted to say that if you're not a member of Suncoast Information Specialists, please consider becoming a member. There's no dues. We have programs like this every other month. I'm in the process of figuring out what to do for June. So if you have any interests, please, you can put that in the chat, or you can personally send me an email. I'm going to type my email in here in a second. But yeah, and tell other people about this presentation. Like I said, it'll be available, and Suncoast Information Specialists is here for you. So we want to make sure that people working in libraries, any kind of information setting, has this kind of support out there for them.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having us. And also thank you so much, Caroline, for jumping in. I think, Caroline, I don't know how many Zoom events you've hosted this week, but I see you all over my Facebook feed, on YouTube, and so forth. I'm not sure if you're sleeping at all, but thank you, Caroline, for helping.
She's great.
To all of you, if you want to do an event with us, we're happy to jump into your community. We can join you online. I actually live in Florida, so I can probably come and see you all if you wanted to do some sort of community cleanup with the Marine Debris Tracker project and track some litter. So don't be shy about getting in touch. I hope to see you all sometime in the near future.
So there's one question that says, how can they share the recording? So
YouTube link is probably the best bet. If you go to youtube.com/Scistarter, it's the first video up there.
Great, perfect. All right, well then I'm going to close out the meeting. Like I said, please share the video to other librarians, information specialists, teachers, whatever that you think is relevant. And even if you think it might not be relevant to your setting, think big. It definitely is, and it can be fun and everything. So, and it is fun. It is fun.
And
All
important.
right, thank you, ladies.